are so many reasons Spencer Pratt is an unlikely candidate for mayor. It's not only that he's best known for being a reality TV villain 20 years ago, he's also never held any public office. He has no political organization, and making his long-shot candidacy even longer, he's a registered Republican in Los Angeles, where no Republican has been elected mayor since Pratt was 9 years old. All of that makes it even more remarkable that Pratt is holding his own against his established opponents. Polls show him on the heels of incumbent Mayor Karen Bass and well ahead of the far-left third candidate. Supporters say it's because, unlike his more polished and carefully rehearsed opponents, the former reality TV star isn't afraid to address the troubling reality that many Angelenos say they face: rampant homelessness and the urban decay that it spawns. That's the substance, but Pratt's style is making a bit of a splash, too. Most of the buzz Pratt built for his campaign came through flashy viral videos, almost all of which are produced using AI. And although the tech to make them is artificial, hence the AI videos themselves being artificial, a lot of Angelenos recognize their city and the decline that is all too real.
This is where Mayor Bass lives. You notice something? Or here, where Nithya Raman's $3 million mansion sits. They don't have to live in the mess they've created where you live. This is where I live. They let my home burn down. I know what the consequences of failed leadership are.
Pratt's popularity represents a pivotal moment in California politics. For years, even suggesting a harder line on homeless encampments could get you shouted down. But now, with tense, open-air drug use and mental illness playing out in front of schools and families, Pratt is rejecting the treatment-first policy that progressives treat as gospel. It led to his big breakout moment in this month's debate.
Councilwoman Robin's plan for treatment first. I will go below the Harbor Freeway tomorrow with her, and we can find some of these people she's going to offer treatment for. She's going to get stabbed in the neck. These people do not want a bed. They want fentanyl or super meth.
Now, Pratt's use there of the term super meth has sparked a debate of its own over what exactly super meth is or if it's even real. But the term sure is catchy, and the devastating effects of potent meth are undeniable. According to renowned journalist Sam Quinones, today's meth brought in by the Mexican cartels is often more than 90% pure. He argues that is behind the explosion of psychosis, paranoia, even violence, symptoms that mimic schizophrenia and are closely linked to homelessness that we're seeing everywhere, not just in Los Angeles, but in cities across the country. Pratt's campaign says the old approach isn't working in the face of such extremes, and he's calling for mandatory treatment and the mandatory removal of all encampments. It is a message that is clearly striking a chord among Los Angeles voters. Joining me now is Sam Quinones, who wrote 2 books on the opioid epidemic in addition to a Substack. Also, Chris Cillizza, NewsNation's political contributor and author of the So What newsletter. Great to have you both with us. So, Sam, I've got a couple drug questions for you.
Okay.
Spencer Pratt argues the homeless crisis is actually a drug crisis, and it's fueled by this thing called super meth. Is that a real thing?
What is true is that the methamphetamine has been more potent than we've ever known it in the beginning about the last 10 years. And certainly in California is where it first started, coming up from Mexico. So yes, absolutely there is methamphetamine that is more pure, more potent than we've ever known it, and also therefore more given to creating symptoms that very much mimic schizophrenia, paranoia, hallucinations, a complete inability to govern one's life, and made worse, I would say, by the tents that have been allowed to spread, meaning that people kind of like are able to hunker down, mire down into these tents already addicted to methamphetamine.
Right, and the drug cartels in Mexico are now using P2P, which is an industrial chemical, to make meth. Instead of the drug that was normally found in Sudafed. And you've been arguing for years, actually, that this very powerful P2P meth is actually causing and creating homelessness.
I think what's happening is that they're able to make so much of it the meth that they're making is so potent, so pure, because of this new method, well, old method, really new for them, of making methamphetamine, that it's being visited on the brains of users in the United States. And we are seeing a very different reaction to methamphetamine since this meth has come in from Mexico than was the case, say, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is a reflection of just simply rank mental illness on the streets.
Chris, Spencer Pratt is getting a lot of attention for the stand he's taking on all this. And he's saying, get these people and get these tent cities off the streets. They don't want shelter. They don't want beds. They want drugs. Is this resonating?
Yes. I don't think there's any question about it, because I think, Elizabeth, you got to focus on the fact the guy's at 22% with really no organization to speak of, right? I mean, it's just mostly him. And I think the reason...
And a couple fans who make AI videos. Yeah.
Right. And I think the reason for that is because the message is right. You know, LA has had a homeless problem for as long as I've been alive, and I'm 50 years old, right? I mean, at some point, the idea of, look, we've tried these other methods, we have to try something different, or, I mean, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I think, look, the obvious comp is to Donald Trump, outside a reality TV show star, and I think that that's not inaccurate with Spencer Pratt. They're also both Republicans. I would also add, though, like Graham Plattner, the Maine Senate candidate, who's a Democrat, Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City. The kind of viral attention economy stuff that Spencer Pratt is doing is very much built in those same spaces, sort of unorthodox solutions. Obviously, with Mamdani, his solutions are on the far left. They're not the same solutions as Spencer Pratt, but unorthodox solutions that politicians of either side have never tried before. Yeah. I think people are sick of the system.
Yeah, although I've got to be honest, you know, when you bring up Mamdani, this issue of drug-addicted homelessness is huge in New York City. I was just on a shoot in Chicago where we encountered people in downtown Chicago who looked like zombies. They were they were clearly high as kites and on something very disturbing. Sam, a big problem in the last many years, because more and more we're hearing people talk about this, like this has got to stop. But a big problem is that in many liberal cities, like Los Angeles, like New York City, like Chicago, people often feel judged for saying, this is a problem. We need to do something more forceful about it. And you say that in LA, activists shout you down, saying homelessness is about a lack of shelter and affordable housing, not addiction.
That's correct, and I think a lot of people feel cowed and upset about that. I also feel that a lot of folks in Los Angeles see basic services going lacking: trash pickup, parks overrun, copper strip from street lights, and so on. And they notice this and they connect it to methamphetamine and mental illness and the tents and all. And yet, for many years now, I think the reaction on the part of a lot of progressives has been to yell folks down, cow them, tell them that they're racist, or they hate homeless people, or they want to criminalize homelessness, when in reality I think people are just seeing that they're not getting any kinds of the services that they paid their taxes for. Right. And this is creating an anger that I think is frankly is reflected in the Pratt campaign. Yeah, the tent campaigns, that some of which we're showing on the screen right now, they're so huge and massive in Southern California. Along Venice's boardwalk, you said there's one that's called Methlehem. There was one. Methlehem was the one along board. It's gone now, but for a long time, Methlehem was there, and it was very serious and very, very scary. And I think a lot of people are just upset that when they see what they see, describe what they see, they're told, no, that's your own privilege talking, or that's your own racism talking, or whatever. By the way, Chris, this is not just an LA issue. We're seeing this play out in cities across the country.
Yeah, look, while you were talking about Spencer Pratt's campaign, I was thinking of Daniel Lurie, just up, north up the coast in San Francisco. Look, San Francisco elected a very liberal mayor named London Breed. You saw San Francisco. Now, I don't know that it was the hellscape that Donald Trump would describe it as always during the 2024 campaign, but it was not in great shape. No, it was not in great shape. And what happened? Daniel Lurie, a businessman, he is a Democrat, but not a progressive lefty. A business guy, wealthy business guy, comes in and he is elected, and now, by the way, is one of the most popular politicians in the country. So
yeah, and he cleans the place up.
Yes, and with honestly some solutions that are not necessarily always popular in the Democratic Party, right? You're seeing this backlash happening in other big cities, but I think those twin examples of what San Francisco went through this.
Yeah.
They elected the lefty mayor. It didn't work. They went back to the moderate centrist mayor, and it's still a Democrat, but a moderate centrist mayor.
Yeah.
People are sick and tired of not feeling safe, and to Sam's point, not feeling like the services that they pay for, that they are not able to get and enjoy, can't walk down the street and feel safe. And that's not a Republican-Democrat thing, by the way. I mean, that also explains Spencer Pratt in some ways. It's not about being a Republican. It's about being common sense.
Yeah, and by the way, it's also about when you're not feeling safe to be told, stop being, you're privileged, you hate homeless people. That's, no, I don't. I just want to be able
racist.
to. Yeah, you're
right.
Yeah, that is not the solution. That kind of criticism. Chris Cillizza, Sam Quinones, thank you both so much. Really appreciate you coming on to talk about this difficult, thorny issue. A lot of people struggling with it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.